high school coaches and travel coaches need to get with their players in a formal setting and sit down with them and maybe even their parents and identify what they're actually looking for and what they want out of this. And I think too many kids go through the recruiting process and everybody wants to go to Vanderbilt. We all want to coach at Vanderbilt, right? They all want to go to LSU. And that's perfectly great. And that's not to say that that shouldn't be their ultimate goal. But the clock's ticking in recruiting, right? And early recruiting is as prevalent as ever. So I think to have realistic goals, and again, this is just kind of piggybacking on what those guys said about what they're looking for, and come up with a realistic checklist of 10 things of what they want, and that could include campus size, the program, chemistry, the coaching staff. There's all different factors for every single kid, and then identify what schools they actually want to possibly pursue, and then from there be proactive about their recruitment. And I get the sense, at least in my position, I can't speak for the other guys on the panel, a lot of recruiting is very passive on the PSA side of things. It's kind of, let me wait it out, let me see who wants me, because I maybe have a little too much pride in myself to reach out to those guys and just get objectable feedback from college coaches who, by all means, are usually more than willing to give it to them. So that would be my advice, and to make sure I don't get too long-winded. I think there's a kind of a disconnect, or there's a perception of a disconnect between travel coaches' responsibility and high school coaches' responsibility. I think a lot of times, I think maybe college coaches are just as guilty of it, as it feels like, for recruiting needs, we're always going to the travel coaches, right? Like, well, the travel coaches are with them all summer. That's where the recruiting takes place. And I know that's something I was guilty of as a young coach. I'm still pretty young, but that's something I learned to make sure that I was doing a better job of, is connecting with the high school coaches as well. So I would implore the high school coaches to make sure that they collaborate with the travel coaches, build good relationships with their players and their summer coaches, so everyone's on the same page. Because just personal experience, I think that sometimes, again, there's a disconnect where the high school coach is telling the kid one thing, the travel coach is telling the kid another. We're hearing it from both sides, and we have no clue what's going on with the kid's recruitment. So that would be my advice, is just make sure that the communication aspect is where it needs to be, and that everybody involved with the kid's well-being and his recruitment are kind of on the same page. And again, high school coaches, I implore you guys to be involved, pick up the phone. And I know I speak for all these guys when I say, if we get a call from a high school coach, travel coach, we're gonna call back. We're gonna listen. We're gonna hear you out. And I'll wrap up here. I know when I worked for Nelson as a 25-year-old travel coach, I had a 17U team. Coach Allen was actually recruiting one of those guys when he was at Creighton. And I felt so intimidated trying to talk to college coaches. And I knew I wanted to be a college coach. And I was like terrified when I would talk to him. I'm like, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to give him bad information. And the reality is I should have been more proactive about building those relationships with college coaches and building that trust and making sure that I'm getting those guys good information. Because at the end of the day, that's all we want. We just want good information from as many sources as we can get. So
when all this started to go down, I started to feel like maybe it was college baseball 20 years ago, where you kind of had to work while you waited, and there was more kids redshirted, and the rosters that played were older, where pre-COVID, I mean, you could watch the College World Series at many levels and you see freshmen on the field, and I'm sure you're still going to see the best of the best. The guy that was, potentially a top 10 rounder that now had to go to college or got to go to college. You're probably still going to see him on the field. I would assume that's a different animal than what I'm familiar with. But I just feel like the patience aspect's not overrated right now. I think the coaches in this room would probably all have a story of somebody they signed late who was a really impactful player for them. And somebody we signed early that we said, man, we may have committed too early to that. We probably could have saw 15 more at bats. There's a coach here in the room that coaches at Streamwood High School in Illinois And one of the best all-around players I ever coached was a kid named Brian Brower. I remember right where I was, with my wife driving back on a date when he called and committed, and he was a really late signee. He was a 4-year starter for us, and he won a championship every year, and he was a Gold Glover, and he was a really nice player, and it was a late sign. Coaches have talked about development, and I don't think it's overrated. It is amazing, when you're at the young age that a lot of guys are, how much you can change your body and your skill set in 6 months. I mean, it's really special. And so having that kind of perseverance obviously is a really big deal. Maybe it's a little outside the box, but, something that we've been talking a little bit about with certain recruits is looking at it as more of a 5-year journey than a 4-year journey. We have a large graduate school here, so that, it kind of fits our niche. And then we're nationally recognized in accounting, finance, and pre-med. So we're on a lot of high academic type students. And so for us, it's been talk with them, just saying possibility of 5 years as a worst case scenario. If we can't predict how quickly you're going to develop, right? So looking at it like, hey, come in and compete and develop and ask good questions, but be open to a 5-year journey, and then have that academic side of that journey already mapped out for you, I think is important. And perhaps the last piece would be, the college game is going to be, it should be more talented than it's been a really long time at every level. Whether it's the Power Fives getting the pro guy now is going to college at a higher rate, and how that just trickles down. The quality of the game should be going up, and I think that part's good for the game, and I think it's good for developing men, because now you're going to play when you're ready, and when you've earned it, and I think that's healthy for life. And so I think the more things that we can do as a baseball community to start the conversation in those areas and help prepare these young men for what they're going to walk into, which is going to be really unique, is going to be really beneficial. And it's just very different, but I think it could also be really healthy.
Saturday and Sunday this week, watch Notre Dame play, watch the Bears play, watch them throw away that game. And I have a little TV right next to my desk here. And while I'm watching the game, I'm just going through profiles and emails and stuff kids are sending, stuff coaches are sending. And really what delineates the ones that I look at from those that I don't is if there's video on there, right? I think that's the easiest thing of where I'm going to spend most of my time. I can look at stats and I can look at, ball exit speed and throwing ball. I can look at all that, but I want to see the kid play, right? If we can't get out and recruit, even when we could, that's going to tell you a lot, whether it's a freshman, or 2021, let's see 10 swings. Let's see him throw a short pen. Let's see, a couple ground balls, just as if we were out there. So, putting the travel hat on, that's what we're telling the guys, both the players that are coming into the facility still. Hey, coaches, you need to assist them and get video. And then for the guys that aren't coming in, get video on your own, right? Everybody has a high definition camera in their pocket these days. It's not that tough. If you can do a TikTok and an Instagram, you can certainly take a little video and shoot it off to a coach. So, I think that's just the big thing is video is paramount.